Okay, let's go.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. Myself and Eric Lindquist here. We got Jordan Klein producing. If you guys could do us a favor as you come in here, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I did find out something very interesting about our producer, Jordan Klein, before you got into Zoom, Eric. Do you know he has friends that come over just to play video games at his apartment while he works?
It's pretty stupid.
He doesn't give them sex. They don't do anything for him. They just sit there and play video games while he works.
I like the sex. The sex is nice.
I just don't understand it. Like, what's the reasoning for this? I feel like there's something I'm missing. And Jordan can't speak for himself because if he was to unmute himself, you just hear some teenager playing Call of Duty yelling in the background.
Yeah, just be a fucking adolescent
slur. So he can't do that. He can't unmute himself.
So
but yeah,
bad.
I don't get it. Maybe somebody in the chat could explain it to me, but I don't understand this thing where it's like, hey, I'm gonna have a buddy come over. We're not gonna be able to interact because Jordan's busy with work and producing the show. But his friend's just going to sit on the couch and play video games all day.
Or we just can't see them because they're underneath the desk.
That would be some of the weirdest blowjob noises I've ever heard. If that was what I was hearing when I first came into here before.
Kill streak.
That would make sense though, because like I said, I was hearing him yell slurs as the kids do while they play video games.
Yeah.
Some of them would make sense if he was blowing Jordan and yelling some of those things.
It's what it sounds like. It's a little jumbled. It's a little jumbled.
Huh.
Man.
All right. Well, listen.
What are you doing, by the way? Oh, we're going into the Zins.
Keep doing your thing. We're sponsored by Sleeper. If you guys sign up with the links we have, you can use the promo code Stochastic. You do get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit when you sign up over at Sleeper. They've always got an abundance of free squares over there as well. We're here to talk about some MLB DFS. And right off the bat, we have to talk about some weather here, Eric, because it's a slate that has some weather concerns. We've already had the Cardinals game canceled, and there are two games on the slate that are definitely potentially problematic spots. Cincinnati Reds are at home against the Colorado Rockies. That's a potential rain issue. And then also on this slate, we've got the Chicago White Sox taking on your Minnesota Twins. It's been raining in Chicago for the last couple of hours. It's also expected to rain in Chicago for the entirety of the night, but that game hasn't been canceled. So what are you doing with these games? Let's start by talking about the Reds and the Rockies, and then we'll talk about the White Sox Twins game. But Reds Rockies, how are you approaching that game first?
I'm playing it right now. I have not done anything crazy with it. Like, I think this is going to get to like a pretty late stage of this game before any issue would show up. But I mean, I've been pretty good with the weather so far this year. Today is a little bit different. I mean, again, the White Sox thing, I have no idea what's going on, but Colorado, Cincinnati, I currently have in and no adjustments. How about you?
Same. I'm actually getting a lot of exposure to this game because I do think we could see the field, not like abort this game or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Lodolo is expected to be pretty popular today, or at least projected to be pretty popular. I wouldn't be shocked to see the field just say like, hey, don't want to deal with the weather, and just kind of pull the plug. I don't think Lodolo is going past 5 innings or so anyway, coming off the injured list, but 5 innings against the Rockies on a slate that has some good, but not like overwhelmingly terrific pitching options. I think Nick Lodolo is somebody who's certainly worth getting to. We'll talk more about him at pitcher. And then also, he might not come in at the mid 20% ownership we have projected. I wouldn't be shocked to see him coming closer to 20% just because of some people scared off with the weather concerns. But I do feel differently about the Chicago-Minnesota game. Like that game, it's already raining. We've got...
What's going on?
With what?
It's just so bad. It's terrible. I have 0 of this game. This game I have
okay. I thought there was, you were referring to like an audio or issue or something like that along those lines.
I'm perfect in practically every way.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, for that game, it's so bizarre because it's raining there now. We've got pretty much a like 80 to 100% chance of rain the entire night there. So unless they're just going to play through rain, which is a possibility, it just looks like a super sketchy proposition.
Like Jordan with friends in his apartment.
Exactly. Very exactly. His buddy Sketch over the house right now. But it's
Sketchy McSketcherson.
At these two games, they both have risk, but there's so much risk, and it's so weird for the Chicago and Minnesota game that it's one that I'm taking out of my player pool, not playing those players. But I'm cool with the Reds game. I'm cool with Nick Lodolo.
I'm with you.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the pitchers overall on the slate as a whole. Unless do you have any other takes on the weather or anything like that?
No, nothing really. I was gonna at least throw out that Boston isn't exactly like super safe for pitching. I was going through a bunch of different stuff. I mean, Cleveland, Detroit, kind of similar, but obviously that's not of our concern for this slate. So I'm not thinking about that one as much. It was just from a betting perspective that I was looking at that one. I do think that there's a chance that Brian Bayo gets a little bit of rain on his side of things. I don't think anybody's running to the window to go play Joey Estes. So there's that. Yeah, I think just from a Bayo perspective, I'm a little bit worried about how much exposure I have to him because I do think like a 5th inning rain delay, not exactly out of the question in that one.
It's a possibility. I mean, it's not a spot that I'm getting to like a ton of. I have some of Brian Bayo, and in a good matchup against the Oakland A's, I am totally okay with it. So not going to be making any kind of real adjustments for that particular game. Only one that I am, like I said before, it's that Twins White Sox game. Some super chats here. Let's look at what we have. First off, we've got Chris Williams. Chris Williams says, big middle finger and glass of warm piss to Spectrum Internet. Still not fully restored in Texas, so can't give memberships on mobile. DK won't open either, so played today, but showing support. Yes, Eric.
Twins White Sox postponed.
There we go. All right, so even better. Now we really don't have to worry about whatever the hell that weather situation was. Yeah, it was really weird that game had not already been postponed, but hey, I've already built lineups without that game in it. Even better. Don't have to worry about it at all now.
Nope,
Chris,
thinking about it.
Sorry to hear about that. I don't have any. If you want to come stay at my place up in New Jersey, we've got 50 minutes or so until the slate starts. If you can make the quick turnaround. Other than that, I hope they get it figured out soon. So shout out to Chris for supporting the show. And yeah, sucks the internet's out there. And shout out to Malakar, who gifted us out 5 YouTube memberships. Malakar, we appreciate you supporting the channel here. Let's see if we had any other questions in Discord before we start. If you guys do have questions for us, just hit me up, tag me in Discord. One of the perks of being a Stochastic sub is you get access to our Discord channel, no matter which package you sign up for. Pitchers now, though, Eric. So we've got the Twins game for sure out of the picture now because it's been officially postponed. Don't have to worry about that at all. But let's talk about all the pitchers who are in this 9K or higher range. And Bailey Ober actually was in this range anyway. He was $8,700. But 9K and above pitchers, we've got Chris Sale, we've got Ronel Blanco, Logan Gilbert, Max Scherzer. Jake Irvin is $9,100. Where the hell did that come from? I know he's pitched decently this year, but all of a sudden he's $9,100 here against the Mets. The chalk option here is Chris Sale. He's nearly 30% on, actually probably above 30% on once ownership updates and Bailey Ober's taken out of the player pool. Scherzer is 19% owned. Ronel Blanco, 11% owned at 10,000. Who's your favorite pay-up option?
Chris Sale. He's very good at pitching. Same kind of thing as yesterday. I mean, obviously they ended up switching that out right before we got on this show today. He's got a 25.8% top 2 percentage. We're going to lose Bailey Ober. That's going to be 20.8%. That has to spread other places. I like getting up to Chris Sale still amongst the top end. Anybody 9K and above, I think he's the premier option. I know Arizona's not like the greatest spot to go into and try to accumulate strikeouts, but he's just been so good that even though it's just a 20.3% K rate there for Arizona, I think the stuff of Chris Sale just wins out for me over any sample size. I mean, he has just been dominant. Once again, 32.7% K rate, 255 xWOBA. And you go through this specific lineup. I mean, you don't have a ton of strikeouts, but you have Christian Walker around 25% and Eugenio Suarez 29%. Alec Thomas in that lineup, not going to be Corbin Carroll, who's in that lineup whatsoever. And Lourdes Gurriel sitting there batting third. I mean, it's okay for me where Chris Sale is somebody I just think the talent wins out.
It's hard for it to not be Chris Sale if we're just trying to identify our one favorite pitcher on the high end. Certainly somebody to be rostering in cash games as well. Chris Sale, I assume his Cy Young odds probably just moved recently because Tyler Glasnow, shocker, goes on the injured list. Tyler Glasnow, who has never thrown more than 120 innings in his entire career. There were so many times this season that I've been tempted to place a Cy Young bet on Tyler Glasnow this year, Eric. And the reason I held off is every single pitcher that I've bet on this year has gotten injured at some point. I was like, surely Tyler Glasnow, if I bet on him, he's going to get injured at some point. So not to say I was rooting for him to get injured, but at least I don't feel like I missed out on betting him to win Cy Young. But yeah, Chris Sale, very live to win the Cy Young. I'm kind of surprised Sale's been able to stay healthy considering he hasn't been healthy in like, what, 6-7 years or something like that. For today, though, I do think Sale is the best pay up option. I do have a particular contrarian option that it's not like crazy contrarian, but a lower owned option that I like here. And that is Max Scherzer. Good match for him against the Angels. We got 90 pitches out of Scherzer in his last start. And yeah, this isn't the peak version of Max Scherzer anymore, right around 40 years of age. So it's not like he's all of a sudden going to be in Cy Young form or anything like that. But we are getting him in a good matchup. He is priced down from where he was priced on these slates a couple of years ago. And considering he threw 90 pitches in his last start, I don't see any reason to think that he can't go up to like 95 to 100 pitches in this one. The price tag is still modest. I think he should be more popular than what he is.
Jonathan India scratched. This is so annoying. I hate baseball this year.
Just the
the team I have the most exposure to. It's all right. Come on. Whatever. I'm with you. Max Scherzer is definitely somebody to have some exposure to up against the Angels. The strikeout stuff, I don't know if it stays on the low end. I mean, we can take it all with a grain of salt. It's all of a grand total of 3 starts. He is, as you said, 39 years of age. He's not exactly young, but he went up against Kansas City, Baltimore, and San Diego. Those are not 3 teams that strike out a whole hell of a lot. Kansas City, sitting there against righties, pretty low number. Baltimore, the best team in baseball against righties. And San Diego, the second best team in baseball with a 120 WRC plus against righties. So for me, I am more than fine. I would say, I mean, I'm going to short Max Scherzer in some pick'em cards south of 6.5. But other than that, I mean, you give me 95 pitches, 6 strikeouts. I mean, Max Scherzer is very, very viable, especially now that we have lost that White Sox game where, Bailey Ober would have been somebody earlier in the day that I played a ton of. Even though I'm not a big Bailey Ober fan, it was just too good of a spot. Without him on the card at 8,700, I think Max Scherzer, a lot of my ownership is going to go that direction.
Yeah, that's the guy for me. Anything else that's standing out to you in the high end of pitching?
Yeah, Ronel Blanco goes up against Miami. This is a good matchup, but 11.1% for him. I mean, you're really just asking him to go out and go 7 innings. I mean, it's not unheard of. It's not out of the question, but it is a difficult ask for me on this slate to be getting to Ronel Blanco at 10K when you can just go to 10-4 for Sale. Just play Chris Sale and then figure out the rest of what you want to do. But Ronel Blanco at 11.1%, a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, I don't think I've played Ronel Blanco like at all this year, which obviously was a problem when he pitched the no-hitter. But I mean, overall for the season, Ronel Blanco, how many slates in a row has he just been priced like 10,000 or something like that? Let me see.
I'd be curious how many times he's been optimal. Like he was optimal against Detroit on that slate. He had 34 fantasy points. San Francisco, I can't remember that slate. I don't know why. But yeah, it was the very first start of the season. He had the no-hitter. It was like the very first slate. So it's been a while. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not like he's been bad. He hasn't been great either. He's just somebody who pretty consistently scores like 13 to 16 fantasy points, which isn't going to kill you, but not typically winning you tournaments either. He had a couple of good starts this year, but in general, if you haven't played Ronel Blanco at all at these price tags, you've come out ahead, and that's going to be the case again for me today. I'm sure I'll be in like a lineup or two, but I won't be near the 11% ownership that the field is getting to with him. Let's move on to the next pricing range where I actually want to refresh to see is our ownership updated for the weather.
Not yet.
And not quite yet. It will be soon. But I wanted to see if we had, so Bailey Ober still in the ownership projections as of right now. He'll be out soon. But we do know that there's chalk in this 8K price range, Eric, because Zach Allen was projected for 30% ownership, and this is before Bailey Ober is taken out of the equation. Nick Lodolo, 26% ownership, and this is before Bailey Ober is taken out of the equation. Then you get Kikuchi at 18% owned. Brian Bayo, he's just under 10%. The only pitcher in the 8K range that's not pulling any ownership is Eric Fetty, 2% owned, but once again, that game's canceled, so it doesn't even matter. So every pitcher that we have available to us, we should assume is picking up some kind of ownership. Brian Bayo on the lowest end being right around 10%, and then the high end, Zach Allen at 30% ownership. Nick Lodolo, Zach Allen, do you have a favorite amongst these chalk pitchers? Do you like neither of them, or do you like both?
I like both of them, Zach Gallen and Nick Lodolo. I think Lodolo, we do have some questions about how far he's going to pitch into this game, but the strikeout stuff, the curveball specifically, he's a young Chris Sale. And then Zach Gallen, 30.4% ownership. We've seen all season long, whether or not it's going to continue or not is questionable, but Atlanta has just a 95 WRC plus against right-handed pitching, a 24.4% K rate. It's, a tough ballpark to be hitting it out of. I think this is a pretty good spot to just be investing in Zach Gallen, but he's pulling a ton of ownership. I currently have 28% Nick Lodolo. I currently have 34% Zach Gallen, so a little bit over the field on both. But I'm going to have to rerun some stuff, and I have a feeling that, a lot of that ownership that is currently going into Bailey Ober, once it gets accounted for, I bet it just turns into those two. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down a little bit. And then I end up more in the 7K range where there's a couple of guys that I do like to take shots on. Well, one guy.
So for me at pitcher, I've got these 4 guys in north of 20% of my lineups. Just 4 pitchers north of 20% of lineups. Lodolo, Gallen, Sale, and Scherzer. Scherzer being the most contrarian of the 4. I like taking a little bit of an overweight stand to him. I'm right around even with the field on Chris Sale, slightly overweight, and then a little bit overweight to Lodolo and Zach Gallen. As far as the rest of the pitchers go in the 8K range, one guy who I am also overweight to that is not all that popular, Brian Bayo. We were talking about him a little bit at the top. He's only projected for 10% ownership, and I know you did mention that there is some potential risk of rain here, but you got a pitcher in Brian Bayo who I know he's been dog shit this year, but it is a really good matchup for him against the Oakland A's. He's been priced down for it. He's also not all that popular. So, I mean, we've certainly seen pitchers worse than Brian Bayo pull ownership against the Oakland A's this season. I mean, remember, who was it? Davis Daniel. He was like 35% owned against the Oakland A's. Brian Bayo sure shit is a hell of a lot better than that dude. So, I mean, Daniels last night pulled ownership against the Texas Rangers as well. So, I mean, Brian Bayo against the A's, I have him in 15% of lineups, about 1.5x the field. I think that's a good contrarian pitching option.
Yep, I'm with you. Brian Bayo is somebody that I want to be invested in today. Sub 10% ownership. I think I've just been disappointed by his big league career in general, but he induces a lot of ground balls. It is a good hitter's park, obviously, there in Fenway as well, but everything is offset by the fact that this is a great strikeout matchup. And you give me a great strikeout matchup at low ownership, and I'm going to take shots on just about anybody at like an 8K price tag. It's just an easy way of differentiating. Now, he's probably got the most blow-up risk of anybody there. I'm going to definitely be overweight to Oakland bats, but Brian Bayo is still somebody that I'm going to be overweight to for sure.
Anything else that's important to you in this 8K range?
I would say Yusei Kikuchi, it's a good ballpark to potentially just keep it in the park on, and he's giving up hard contact. We're starting to see some stuff that wear and tear. He's just getting some mileage on the tires, and things have regressed for him, 10.4% barrel percentage, but 24.6% K rate. And, they end up parting with Austin Slater. He ends up going to Cincinnati, but that means Ramos, Chapman, Bailey, these guys are going to be higher up in the order, and Ramos, 26.5% K rate, 23.2% for Matt Chapman. You're going to get at least one lefty, potentially 2 of them in that lineup with Conforto and Yastrzemski. One of them has to be in it. I guess Luis Matos is going to probably be the center fielder there in that spot. But going through this San Francisco lineup, there are going to be Oh, there we go. Tyro Estrada in that lineup as well. Tyler Fitzgerald. I mean, it's just not a very good San Francisco team here. 64 degrees like it normally is there all the time. It's basically eternally winter in San Francisco, but very much going to be getting to some Yusei Kikuchi, but not even at the field, 15% of him.
Did you say it's eternally winter in San Francisco?
Yeah, so Mark Twain had as a comment where the coldest the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. That's the famous Mark Twain quote. Because truly, if you've ever been to San Francisco, homeless people everywhere, and it's freaking cold. I've never been warm in San Francisco in my life.
Well, I live in the Northeast, and I'll tell you that in the winters here, it can be sub-0 degrees, and we haven't had a lot of snow lately. But when it's really extreme, it could be sub-0 degrees. It doesn't get that cold in San Francisco. This Mark Twain character, I know he thinks he's fancy because he put a pen to paper and wrote some words, but he's fucking wrong about the weather. There's a reason he was an author and he wasn't doing DFS weather reports.
No, I remember one time I had like this really thin jacket on and went to the pier for dinner with some friends, and it was the coldest I've ever been. It was freaking cold, man. I'm telling you, San Francisco is sneaky, sneaky cold.
It's not colder than the Northeast.
Okay.
It's not colder. It's not colder.
Agree
All right,
to
let's see
disagree.
what we have here for a couple super chats came in. First is from Ice Through Justin H. He says, for a San Francisco stack, Helio Ramos, Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler. Yeah, I think you want to be looking at the righties for San Francisco against Kikuchi in this matchup. Those are some pretty good ones to be eyeing. Let me see what else I have from San Francisco in my lineups. Let's filter here in the Sims tool. All right. Giants. Yeah, if you're making a 3-man stack, like those are the most appealing options to me from San Francisco. Anything else that you would add?
No, those would be the 3.
All right, let's see what else we have for a super chat. By the way, yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable little stack you got there. Ice Through Justin H. Jeff Williams says, playing the 888 on DK, what pitcher do we think he should pair with Chris Sale? All right, so he's already committed to playing Chris Sale. I mean, just based on what my exposures are, it does depend a little bit what the rest of your lineup looks like, Jeff, because the pitcher that I'm most overweight to would be Max Scherzer, but I don't know if you have the flexibility to do that. I don't know what the rest of your lineup looks like necessarily. But my option, my best option for you is Max Scherzer.
Agreed.
If you don't have the salary to get to him, then I'll say save the $500 and go to Nick Lodolo. But Scherzer, that is my final answer.
Saddle up Buttercup and we ride with Blake Snell. That's the other option.
And I saw there was another question somebody had asked me. It was Nate asked, why don't I move and not pay taxes? Well, there isn't really somewhere I can move to where I don't pay any taxes unless I'm going to like Canada, where there's no income tax for like betting and DFS and stuff like that. But main reasons, there aren't that many states. Like Eric lives in California. I couldn't live. And I know this doesn't solve the tax issue, but a lot of the states that have lower tax rates, you can't bet in, and weed isn't legalized, which are like pretty important, necessary things for me. So I have to find where and also New Jersey's close to my family. Like my parents live in my house with me. I've got my siblings all live in New Jersey. I don't know. I like it here. I'm not that far from New York City. I like going to New York from time to time. I like New Jersey.
I'm going to New York next month. It's called vacation, Greg.
Yeah. And Eric's been to my town. It's a nice place. We got
sure. It's a lovely place. Yeah. The Mexican food could use a little work, but it was still delicious. Still had fun.
Yeah, AJ Worst in the chat says there's no income tax in Florida. Yeah, there's also no weed or sports betting there.
And alligators. Fuck that.
No. I could tame one of them and ride them. I'm pretty sure. Like I could fit into Florida from that standpoint. But the other part, like I can't. I will not live in a state that doesn't allow sports betting.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, Arizona is like the stone cold nuts. Going back, every time I go to Arizona, I'm like, this is where I should just be all the time. So I gotta say, Arizona is the nuts.
Hurricanes also in Florida. I'm not fucking with that. I saw
bring
that up
sucks.
in the chat.
That
no,
sucks.
thank you. No, thank you. Cheap pitchers. Let's talk about the punt guys. We could group together everybody on the slate that's priced below 8K. Yeah, let's just group all these guys together. So we'll go Blake Snell all the way down to Trevor Rogers. No pitchers. Even now, if you didn't see, Eric, our data is updated. I just refreshed it. I also, by the way, I didn't go off on a little tangent for no reason. I wanted our data to be updated so we had a fresh run of ownership before we finished talking about pitchers. Of every pitcher priced below 8K, even with the update with Bailey Ober being out, there's not a single pitcher that's projected for north of 10% ownership. You got Colin Ray at 10% being the most popular. And then you've got the next most popular is Blake Snell at 5% ownership. Is there anybody you're liking for cheap today?
Blake Snell. I'm playing a lot of Blake Snell. So Blake Snell got up north of 70 pitches, went 5 innings, no hits, no earned, 9 strikeouts last AAA start. It's not really even that I care that much about. It's that they really had no incentive to not wait until Blake Snell was completely 100% healthy. And even at the beginning of this season, when he really had no off season, which I think is leading to some of these issues, 72 pitches was his first start there. If you gave me 75, 80 pitches for Blake Snell against most teams, like almost every team in baseball, I think I would be willing to take some shots. But then you factor in it's a really good ballpark. You factor in that potentially we're getting guys like Leo Jimenez in this lineup, and at least Dalton Varsho. I think that's probably going to be your one lefty that they end up rolling out there. But I think there's going to be an okay amount of strikeouts in this lineup still. I mean, Toronto's really, really tough because you have Vlad, you have Bichette, you have Jansen, Springer, Turner, all of them sub 18% strikeout rates. But I still think you get a chance of having Horowitz out there. I still think you get Varsho out there no matter what, and that's a free strikeout. And Leo Jimenez, we don't have enough of a sample size on him here so far. What, all 3 batted ball events, nothing really to be looking at with him. Pulling up his minor league numbers here as well. Yeah, there's not going to be a ton of strikeouts with him at AAA this season. What, 34 strikeouts in 226 plate appearances? That's pretty decent. So he's not a crazy walking strikeout by any means, but it's Blake Snell. It's talent sub 8K. It's a slate where there's nothing really down here that I want to play. I'm not playing Quintana, Quantrill, Mazur, Priester, Contreras, Rogers. I'm not playing any of these guys. I don't have any Joey Estes. Colin Ray we can talk about, but like, if I'm going to go cheap, quote unquote cheap, Blake Snell is the guy, and he has strikeout upside. So like, cool. Hopefully Blake Snell's back. That'd be great because I have 20% of him.
How many pitches do you think he's going to be allowed to throw?
75 I put him in for, and I'm still getting to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the biggest concern I have with Blake Snell is just what is the pitch count going to look like? So he hasn't made a major league start now in over a month. He was on the injured list. And then in his minor league starts, he wasn't really pitching deep into games either. His last 3 starts, he pitched 5 innings, 3 innings, and 1 2/3 innings. So I kind of feel he's capped around 5 innings. He's Blake Snell. Like you said, if the prime version of him shows up, he could have a pretty good start in 5 innings. But for me, the guy that I'm leaning on is Colin Ray. He's been, I mean, I don't know how good you guys think Colin Ray is, but I was going to say he's probably been better than what you think he's been this year. But a big part of it also comes with the fact that he's not generating a whole lot of strikeouts. He's not a priority play for me or anything like that, but he does have a pretty decent matchup against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't have a ton of him, but I have more of him than I have of any other punt option, which is 14% of Colin Ray.
And that's the thing is like 16.8% K rate for Colin Ray, or the potential of getting 30% from Blake Snell if he comes back and is like Blake Snell, because Blake Snell is matchup proof when he's at the top of his game. So for me, it's just looking at a price point where nobody's playing it in Snell. And I'm like, all right, I'm willing to take some shots there, because let's just say that he does pitch more. It's not like we have a pitch count number. It's not like, I mean, he went 5 innings, the 9 strikeouts, looks pretty good in that last start. So it was in the reverse order of which you said them. He ended up appearing, so he was getting ramped up to those 5 innings. Do I think that he has like 95 pitches today? No. Do I think he has 85? I think that would be on the upper echelon of what we're looking for. But I think 75, 80 pitches of him or 100 of Colin Ray could be very equal in a lot of ways. I don't know. I'm kind of willing to take shots on both of them, but half the ownership going to Snell. I'm going to go to 20% on him. I'm right around the field on Ray.
Yeah, and then I mean the other thing too about these guys that we're talking about, Colin Ray's $7,400, Blake Snell is $7,800, and then you got guys like Zach Allen, Nick Lodolo, who I mean, especially Lodolo, pitching at home against the Colorado Rockies, he's only $1,000 more, and he's been better than Blake Snell. I mean, Blake Snell's been atrocious this year, so like to me, it's just so much easier to just find the $1,000 to pay up for Gallen or Lodolo, as opposed to playing Colin Ray or Blake Snell. So, like I said, Ray's the one I get the most of. But for people who are watching, which I know this is most of you that have just a lineup or 2 in play, you don't have to consider any of these guys.
Agree.
Anything else that's of interest to you for cheap?
Nope. I looked at Trevor Rogers for a long, long time, and then I decided to quit doing meth.
I don't know what the hell happened to Trevor Rogers. Remember how good he used to be?
Yep. I remember when he had strikeouts. I remember when it was Trevor Rogers' neighborhood and you didn't want to go visit it because it was a scary neighborhood. It's probably the most welcoming neighborhood for a batter that could possibly exist now, and go Houston today.
2021 average first full season for Trevor Rogers in the big league. 2021. 94.6 average miles per hour on his fastball. Same exact mark in 2022, 94.6. Last year, gets hurt, so only makes 4 starts, 93.4 miles per hour average fastball velocity. And then you start to think, hey, he's got an off season. Maybe things will pick up for him. He'll be healthier. 92.4 this year. So, I mean, this guy is just,
92.5.
it's not just that the results are bad. It doesn't even seem like the arm is there anymore.
I have him at 91.9, so I don't know what you're looking at. My sheet has
I've
him.
got the FanGraphs numbers pulled up.
Oh, I've got Baseball Savant pulled up.
It's probably a little bit more accurate, but either way, they're usually, you know, like more or
no,
less.
No, I'm just saying that it's surprising to have it be a half-mile-hour disparity between two statistic sites, and I scrub them correctly. Let me double check this and make sure that I am getting this, because I've got a thing that basically scrubs the site and just copies the numbers for me.
Are you looking at 4-seam fastballs?
Fastball velocity, 91.9 miles per hour on Baseball Savant. So yeah.
Does that include 2-seamers though? Because I'm just looking at 4-seam.
Okay, you're just looking at the main. I think it involves anything. So 4-seamers also include sinkers, and I know he's a sinker ball pitcher too. So I think when they group fastball together, they bring along the sinker too.
Gotcha. All right, so let's go and see if there's any questions that are outstanding in Discord. Nope, just posting there about Jonathan India being scratched. We hit on that before. Make sure that Jonathan India isn't in your lineups. Let's talk about pitching on the FanDuel side of things, Eric, and they'll build some lineups in the lineup generator. But FanDuel pitching, we've got a much more expensive Chris Sale over there. I mean, pricing, FanDuel is killing it with pricing this year. They're doing a really good job in terms of making it fair for a lot of the players. So as a result, Chris Sale, 11,500. He is the most popular pitcher on the slate, but 16% owned. No kind of crazy chalk on Chris Sale. That kind of price tag. Nick Lodolo, a lot of tough decisions to make with him there as well, because he's 10,500. So here are your popular pitchers on FanDuel. Only 3 pitchers with north of 10% ownership. Chris Sale, 16% owned. Ronald Blanco, 10% owned. And Zach Gallen, also 16% owned. So you got a third of the field playing pitchers in that Arizona-Atlanta game. If you were playing one pitcher in a tournament today on FanDuel, Eric, which direction would you be looking to go?
Probably Zach Gallen or Max Scherzer. I mean, Max Scherzer getting the restrictions pulled. Sub 10K is a little bit different over there. I would think that the way I like to handle FanDuel, I probably would be looking at some extra bats on this kind of a slate for one lineup. Probably would be getting away from Chris Sale. That's, $1,800 difference there, $2,200 difference for Scherzer and Sale. I'd be looking at one of those two. I'm not sure which one I would be going to. I think it would probably just come down to seeing what some of the early ownership was on some pitchers. And then obviously I'd be able to kind of go back and forth. I mean, that's an evening game for both of them. Nick Lodolo, I'd want to see what that ownership ended up at. If that was like north of 10%, I'd feel pretty good about doing whatever I wanted. But yeah, Gallen or Scherzer?
It is Scherzer for me. I mean, $9,300. You've got this one thing that is weird about the FanDuel pricing today is you got the top pitchers all kind of grouped together in terms of salary, with Scherzer being the least expensive of all of them at $9,300. Then there's a massive price gap for as many games that are on the slate. You go from Scherzer at $9,300. The next most expensive pitcher is Bayo at $8,300. So that's something that's just going to have you land on Scherzer more, in my opinion. But then also 7% owned at $9,300 against the Angels. Don't have to worry about those pitch count restrictions anymore. I really like Scherzer as a contrarian FanDuel pitcher.
Yep, I am with you. Again, I like Gallen too, I guess. It's just double the ownership to go to Gallen. Yeah, it's probably going to be Scherzer if I played one now talking through it.
It's also a tougher matchup. I mean, you got Scherzer going up against the Angels, Gallen's pitching against the Braves. Yet at this point in their career, Gallen's a better pitcher, but more expensive, more than double the ownership, and then also just such a difficult matchup compared to what Scherzer's getting. So give me Scherzer on FanDuel as a contrarian play. That's a spot that I do really definitely like getting to. What is going on? I just saw a bunch of messages deleted in chat. What happened?
I don't know. Yo Castic, my guy. What do you think about Quintana and all the Washington lefties? Well, we don't have to think about it today, so that's cool.
All right. Let's go ahead and build some lineups in the lineup generator. Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, pull that up. Also, gonna let you guys know about a promo that we have going on the site. And when I planned this, I didn't realize how much of an asshole I was going to feel like doing this ad read now. But I won a PGA tournament over the weekend, $50,000. And we hadn't run a sale across the site for all different packages as of late. So here's what we're doing. Sign up for any package over at Stochastic with the promo code Greg, my name, because I won a tournament over the weekend. You get 25% off anything you want to sign up for any sport. So if you want to sign up for our all access package, sign up with the promo code Greg, you get 25% off. If you want to sign up for the lineup generator package, sign up with the promo code Greg, get 25% off. You want to sign up for the MLB Sims package, sign up with the promo code Greg, get 25%. You guys get the idea now. Sign up for any baseball packages. The links are below in the description box. If you want to sign up for something outside of baseball, head on over to Stochastic. And once again, enter the promo code, my name, get yourself 25% off any package you choose to sign up for. This is going to be going on for the next few days. So take advantage of it if you've been considering signing up for something. And what are you doing right there? Your phone turned off.
I was doing you.
There we go. Oh, I got you. I didn't see what the graphic was there.
Jordan Klein liked it very much.
That is the graphic.
Jordan Klein liked it very much.
That's well made by Brody, because I don't know how he photoshopped that, because I've never done that before. That's good work by him. Good work by him. Also, any package you sign up for, it does come with access to our Discord channel. Let's build lineups in the lineup generator now, Jordan. Let's do it. Pull it up on screen. We'll start with DraftKings. And earlier, Malukar asked when lineups update in the lineup generator once data updates on the site. So now that we have Bailey Ober pulled out of our projections and we've got ownership updated, now that game will be pulled out of here. Let's build balanced lineups. Yeah, don't lock anything in. And let's see what it is we get to. Yeah, save 20 or so of these lineups, and then we'll go ahead and we'll look at what the exposures are looking like. All right, so pitchers. Wow, that's a lot. I was not expecting Yusei Kikuchi to show up towards the top here, but a lot of Kikuchi, a lot of Nick Lodolo, Zach Gallen. There's Chris Sale. And yeah, good chunk of Chris Sale, but a little bit underweight to the field to him, where we've got him in 33% of lineups. I think that's more or less reasonable. The only thing that's really all that different from my lineups here, I don't have that much Yusei Kikuchi, but yeah, certainly pitchers like Lodolo, Chris Sale, Zach Allen, all towards the top of my player exposures. Also, we're getting to a shit ton of the Boston Red Sox here. Not all that surprising, the amount of Red Sox that we're getting to, because it is overall a good spot for them. Click on the stack exposure if you wouldn't mind, Jordan. He's broken. Tell your buddy to get up from under the desk. You got work to do, Jordan Klein.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the stack exposures up here. And yeah, Boston Red Sox are super chalky today. We've got nearly 15% ownership going to Boston. Another popular team is the Texas Rangers, 13% owned. The Reds nearly 10% owned. The A's nearly 10% owned. And then once you get past, then you also got 8% ownership going to the Houston Astros against Trevor Rogers. Everything else is contrarian on the slate. What are you doing with the chalky stacks, Eric, in the Red Sox and the Rangers?
I am playing so many Red Sox. It is crazy. So just jamming Red Sox. So last night, something I've been doing more and more, ended up having a pretty good day over there because of a couple of Twins options yesterday that went ham, but ended up playing some underdog drafts and ended up firing them up night before and was going through my process. I'm like, well, I do more research the night before a slate than just about anybody, so I might as well take advantage of it. So I started doing some of those drafts, ended up getting like second, third, and like the $4, the $3 yesterday over there. And it was just basically like, I should run that strategy. And last night, nobody was drafting Boston, and it made no sense to me going up against Joey Estes, who is just basically going to die in some of these spots. He is going to get absolutely pummeled. You're getting a huge ballpark downgrade for him pitching in Boston. He has crazy lefty problems, 267 expected ISO against, and not exactly a nothing to righties, 154 expected ISO against with a 250 BABIP that truly has negative regression written all over it. But Durant is now right around a 219 expected ISO. Hamilton, 146 expected ISO. And we know the stolen base upside with both of them. Tyler O'Neill up there with a 230 expected ISO against righties. Devers, 351 expected ISO against. Connor Wong, one of the best catching options you can get to. Masataka Yoshida, who definitely can turn it on here a little bit coming up. Could see some power resurgence sooner rather than later. Even in the 7-hole, Wilyer Abreu against righties, nearly a 200 expected ISO, 19.9 degree average launch angle, 6 home runs. I will be betting his home run prop as soon as we are off of this show here as well. I really like pretty much everything that they bring up. Even Rafaela, we're seeing crazy power from him in the 9-hole. And Dominic Smith, he's Dominic Smith. He's disappointing. It is what it is. But like 1 through 9, just fire up the Red Sox ad nauseum. Best stack by far, I think, on this slate.
I like Boston. I mean, Boston's one of my most roster teams. I just don't have all that much different exposure to them than what the field has. And then even a team so I like Brian Bayo as a contrarian pitching option for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Oakland A's don't have the best offense. We also have low ownership on Bayo. Then also the A's are popular, which I think is also warranted because they're cheap. They make for good value. So both Boston and Oakland, I have a good amount of, but I'm about even with the field on. The one chalky stack I am a good amount overweight to the field to, though, is the Texas Rangers. If I was playing one chalky stack today, I would be going towards Texas. Same thing you and I did last night. It went quite well. Texas, I had a lot of high-end Rangers stacks. They ended up scoring 9 runs, hit a couple of homers last night. So Texas Rangers, that is my favorite chalk stack overall.
I totally get that. And they're not available on the underdog slate for what it's worth. It's just the 7 games starting at 7 and 8. So if you're doing those drafts, which I strongly recommend, my ROI is way better than I thought it would be on those. And I should have been doing them all year, but here we are just telling you to do them now. Yeah, I feel pretty good about Boston still. I'm going to be prioritizing Boston, but I have no problem. Rosie Contreras sucks. He's terrible. He's no good. And the big issue for me is that there's just a couple of these guys like, shout out Wyatt Langford. He's starting to be the boy that was promised, no doubt about it. But I want to get to Corey Seager, Josh Smith, and Nathaniel Lau. Like those are the 3 that I really want to get to. Give me the lefties against Contreras in a ballpark that plays very, very small for lefties.
Is there any particular stack you like for single entry more than other stacks today?
Yep, there's one. It's pretty disturbing. Obviously, yesterday, I had a good day because I jammed a ton of Abbott in large field, but we stacked against him in Colorado. So that was basically a $25 sacrifice to the gods, if you will. Today, it's going to be a little bit, I'm kind of torn. There's 2. So the first one is Seattle. I think Seattle going up against Adam Mazur. I think this guy is terrible. He is one of the least appealing pitchers. Petco's been number 1 in baseball for home runs above expectation over on Baseball Savant. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know why, but you want to justify ripping someone's head off. Seattle makes a lot of sense for single entry. But the second one, and it is really disturbing for me, is Toronto against Blake Snell. I know he's not going to be popular, and I was talking about Blake Snell, but we've seen some really broken down Blake Snell over the course of this season. Like we're talking north of a 9 ERA, horrible, terrible, very, very bad all season long. I don't think anybody's going to click on Toronto or go out of their way to click on Toronto. And it's primarily all righties who do not strike out. So in the event that Blake Snell comes back and just isn't right, this is kind of a very sneaky evening spot.
I don't think you have to go like too crazy. And by the way, I think that Seattle, very reasonable team to be getting to against Adam Mazur. For reference, I have 8% Seattle stacks, which is about double the field. So I think that's a not terrible spot to go at all. I also don't think you have to go crazy contrarian just because I think the field is going to be very heavy on both Boston and Texas stacks in single entry. And I think it's a pretty good spot for the Cincinnati Reds. I'm also hopeful that the field maybe gets off of them a little bit because of some of the rain concerns, because that is a possibility there. But the Cincinnati Reds against Cal Quantrill, I do like that spot for them as well. And one of the things, too, is that there's a lot of power upside as well as the stolen base upside for the Cincinnati Reds, particularly when you are talking about Ellie De La Cruz. I haven't rerun my lineups yet for Jonathan India being scratched, so that is something I have to do.
See,
but Cincinnati Reds aren't. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the thing that has me really worried that people don't get off of this. Edwin Rios is 2K, flat 2K. Reese Hines goes yard yesterday, third base shortstop, flat 2K. I think if people are playing a lot of Sale, which I kind of expect, and I think is probably the right way to play this slate, being a little bit above on Sale, I think you're going to see people land on Cincinnati no matter what, because, well, it's 2K. If you get 6 or 7 innings of this game, it's still 2K value that you're getting 3 at bats for. And it's kind of hard to get away from when it gets you access to as much Chris Sale as it does. Like, I'm just worried that Rios and Hines end up so popular. And then Ellie De La Cruz has been a cheat code from a fantasy perspective. The guy has a bajillion stolen bases. And again, it's the same stolen base matchup talked about yesterday. I mean, he's going to be running all over Cleveland in this series. I just don't see any way around it. It continues to be the case. It will continue to be the case today.
Individually, the hitters we're getting the most exposure to here, it is a David Hamilton, Connor Wong, Masataka Yoshida. So that is all players from the Boston Red Sox, and a couple of potential home run picks from Jordan Klein included in the group as well. Let's go to FanDuel. Let's see what lineups we can build on the FanDuel side of things, Jordan.
Oh my God. Every time.
Yeah, FanDuel, same deal. We'll go all stack types, balance lineups, see what shows up there. And on the FanDuel side of things, I'll let you guys know what the stack ownerships are there, refreshing that page. And the chalkiest teams on DraftKings, even chalkier over on FanDuel, which has also been the norm for this season, but 19% ownership going to the Boston Red Sox on FanDuel, 14% to the Texas Rangers. So Texas a little bit more popular, and then Boston way more popular. In turn, Oakland less popular. They're 7% owned as opposed to the 10% ownership that they're pulling on DraftKings. And lineup generator, still loving the Boston Red Sox as chalk. David Hamilton, Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, Tyler O'Neill, Masataka Yoshida, our top 5 most rostered players, all coming from the Boston Red Sox. And then our next 4 all coming from the Cincinnati Reds. Spencer Steer, Heimer Candelario, Ellie De La Cruz, Edwin Rios. I like the Reds on DraftKings. I like them even more on FanDuel, Eric, where they're only 7% projected owned.
I am very much there for that. Holy crap. That is like, I should have played FanDuel today. That's for sure. That's what I'm learning looking at some of those lineups. That's like all I want. All red on that side of the screen. Reds, Red Sox. Just give me all of it.
Yeah, and then you scroll down a little bit. You got Wilyer Abreu. I'm seeing, it's hard to make out some of those names there. But then I see Chris Sale at pitcher, Zach Gallen, Yusei Kikuchi. No pitcher showing up in a ton of lineups, so it is a little bit spread out there, which, I mean, makes sense. It's also the way the field is playing. It Sale's the most popular pitcher on FanDuel at 17% projected ownership. And yeah, that's pretty reasonable, modest ownership there. Anything else you're noticing about the FanDuel lineups?
Miguel Andujar. Let's begin our conversation about Oakland as well. I mean, this is a great hitting environment for Oakland on the other side. We've got nearly a 4.5 implied total going to Oakland. Wind's blowing out. It's 87 degrees. It's humid. It's a great hitting ballpark in Fenway. I do think getting to some of them. I mean, the thing is, Brian Bayo has that ground ball rate, which should help a little bit in terms of survival mode, in addition to the Oakland Athletics just are not very good at the hitting of baseballs. But they do have some guys, and Miguel Andujar, kind of a career renaissance today, or this season. Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom. I'm going to be getting to some of these dudes. I have no problem firing up some Oakland Athletics today. It's just a question of like how much I can really prioritize them over Boston, over some of these other spots. It's hard to get to, but a one-off here, a one-off there. Getting to like the actual good hitters. I've talked about that a lot with Oakland this year. We're like, I'm focused in on Brent Rooker. I'm focused in on Shane Langeliers, one of the better hitting catchers in baseball. Tyler Soderstrom, JJ Bleday. I don't want to be getting crazy with the back half of the lineup because just how porous it is, but you can talk me into some one-offs. I like seeing the Miguel Andujar one-off there sitting north of 20% of lineups.
Yeah, I mentioned the Oakland A's. It is a team that I'm about even with the field with on DraftKings. They're actually getting overweight to them on FanDuel, really low ownership there. So Oakland A's, I think it's the best source of salary savings overall on the slate. We got a super chat from Einstein. He wants to know, how do we feel about Seattle stacks today? Both Eric and I like them. I think Eric was slightly higher than me, but I'm still double the field on them against Adam Azure. So, yeah, anything else you'd want to add about Seattle other than we both like them?
Adam Azure sucks.
There we go. And then also he wanted to know what we make of Logan Gilbert today. Logan Gilbert, is he somebody you're rostering at pitcher?
No, I actually have some San Diego stack. I'm above the field on San Diego. 120 WRC plus against righties. They just don't strike out, guys. 18.4% K rate. Logan Gilbert, good in his home ballpark. This is not his home ballpark. He has been doing a better job this year of keeping and tempering power down, but this is still a team that's just been exceptional relative to other teams against right-handed pitching. And Logan Gilbert, this is not an easy spot. Somebody brought up, I don't know who it was earlier, but it was the same thing I talked about on the show, or before we started the show, where Adam Mazur's at 4.5 strikeouts at pick'em sites, and then Logan Gilbert sitting at 4.5, 5 at pick'em sites all day. Like, it's weird to see them with like the identical strikeout props because Adam Mazur has no strikeout stuff, and we have Logan Gilbert with decent enough pedigree for it. But it's just 100% because of the matchup. So for me, no Logan Gilbert today.
Yeah, I don't have Logan Gilbert in lineups either. They're just comparable. I shouldn't say comparable. There are better pitchers who are comparably priced to Logan Gilbert for this particular slate. So don't like Logan Gilbert. I do like getting overweight to a contrarian Seattle Mariners stack there, though. Einsteinium. And let's talk about the rest of the stacks on the slate before we wrap up with our home run picks, Eric. And of course, if anybody has any final questions, hit us up with those so that we could answer them. Are there any really contrarian stacks you're liking for today? Any super low owned stacks that the field isn't on?
I mean, San Diego's pretty contrarian. It's just a terrible gas can on the other side, 4.6% ownership. I brought up the Toronto Blue Jays against Blake Snell. He's been very good in those last couple of starts there at AAA. Again, I don't think there's any reason San Francisco needs to come bring him back with pace other than potentially trying to maybe move him at the deadline if they decide to bow out of the NL West. We've got San Diego against Logan Gilbert at 1.2% ownership. You give me the second best team in baseball and the best, it's weird to say, but the best home run park in baseball this year, relative to expectation, is the Petco Park. It is unbelievable to see that every single time. Blows my mind. And then San Francisco. I think that they're a little bit sneaky just because Kikuchi's pulling some of that ownership. Sims Tool definitely likes Yusei Kikuchi. I like the strikeout stuff there for sure, but you give me a 2% stack like San Francisco with a bunch of mid-priced to cheap righties and an opportunity for them in a big ballpark with a lot of space to maybe keep that line moving. I do think San Francisco is at least interesting to be over the field on.
Yeah, contrarian one for me is the Milwaukee Brewers. They're showing up in some of my lineups. They're only pulling 5% ownership. Quinn Priester, he's back in the major leagues after spending some time in AAA. The reason he was in AAA, so this year, 6 starts in the major leagues, 4.83 ERA, 4.77 expected ERA. Last year, he pitched 50 innings in the big leagues, had a 7.74 ERA, a 6.28 expected ERA. Quinn Priester has been terrible for his entire baseball career. We've now got him in the league for a few years and overall a 6.61 ERA, a 6.34 FIP. The Brewers have a good offense. It's kind of odd to me that nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody because they're pulling some ownership, but I did think the Brewers were going to be a little bit more popular than what they are.
I am with you. I thought they were going to be a little bit more popular. I think what makes it hard for me is just we've got pretty good hitting environments in different spots. This one, it's not as ideal. You have some expensive bats. William Contreras, 5.5K. You got Christian Yelich. You got Willy Adames. And then you get this opener out there, Josh Fleming, starting things off. That's a little bit annoying to me. Always kind of just never feels the best there. But you do have some salary savings getting to Blake Perkins. But like even Bryce Terang there batting 7th, 4.9K. So hard to go click on that. You can only play one catcher. And well, Eric Haas would be there for salary savings at 3K. But then you're missing out on William Contreras, probably the best hitter in this lineup. So for me, it's not a team that I'm really getting to. I'm with you, though. If you're trying to find a reason to make a stand for a team that, you know, just looking at your portfolio lineups and you're playing a lot of chalk, I do not mind Milwaukee. I'm just kind of doing other stacks more.
Yeah, we had Justin in the Discord channel asked us for a FanDuel GPP. Do we like a stack of Boston and Oakland? There's not like a compelling reason to make yourself play both sides of one game, but individually, yeah, I like Boston and Oakland. Boston is super popular. Oakland is less popular on FanDuel. They are on DraftKings. DraftKings, they're now 10% owned, 7% owned over on FanDuel. So I think they should be a little bit more popular on FanDuel. So it does balance out some of the ownership because Boston's super popular there. I would be a little bit concerned about rolling out Boston and Oakland with, say, like Chris Sale, because that is overall going to be a very popular lineup. But if you go like Scherzer with a Boston and Oakland stack, then I think you've got a reasonably contrarian lineup there. But yeah, Oakland, Boston, 2 offenses that I certainly do like for today. Anything else you want to add about stacks, Eric? If not, we'll do our home run picks.
Let's do home run picks.
All right. Hit me with it, Eric. Hit me with the dong. Who's going yard today?
Ooh. I want to go to Cal Raleigh. I'm going to the evening window. I'm going to Seattle. I think this is a really interesting spot to be overweight to. When you're trying to play MLB DFS and you utilize the Sims tool and you can go and stack boost up somebody or see where some of the ownership is landing and compare the two. Adam Mazur is giving up a 231 ISO to lefties, 137 ISO to righties. I do think that he is bad enough that we could see some regression to those numbers even, but I just look at Cal Raleigh's profile, nearly a 200 expected ISO, platoon flips around, crazy amount of power, and then pretty short odds in the betting streets, and yet plus 330, plus 340, I'd be just fine getting to that here today as well. I'm going Cal Raleigh, batting fifth for the Seattle Mariners.
Let's see. I've got a lot of Texas exposure, so I do want to get to a Texas player here. I'm going to go with Wyatt Langford. So Langford came into the year as one of the top prospects in baseball, and his overall numbers aren't great for the year. He really struggled out of the gate. Like off the top of my head, he had something like a 70 WRC plus the first month of the year. He's now above 100 WRC plus, and it's because of the work he's done over the course of the last few weeks. So Wyatt Langford, he has been somebody, not only has he picked up just overall his numbers, but a lot of it's come in the power department. He hit a long homer yesterday, and I think he should be, for the next few years now, one of the better overall, more valuable outfielders in the American League. Wyatt Langford, that is my home run pick. Let's see what we have from the chat. If you guys are watching the show and you're on YouTube, throw in your home run pick, and we'll read some of those off right now. We have, let's see. Here we go. Casey Leatherwood going with Miguel Andujar and Rowdy Tellez. We got Michael Roundtree going Yordong Alvarez. Go Fies going with Rafael Devers. I don't know how Devers doesn't have like 70 home runs this year, because it does seem like he hits one or two every single night. But Devers, there's a pick there. Masataka Yoshida for Jordan Klein. We got Brent Rooker from Francisco Rubio. Jay Lovelady going with Edwin Rios. And then we've got Brandon Nimmo from Charles Moran, Devers as well from Robert Grease, JD Martinez from Ricardo Nelson, Matos from Reg Kell, Grichuk from Swoop, Profar from Aaron Hines. Profar has been really good this year. Kind of goes under the radar, but he's near the lead in National League in wins above replacement. He's been that good. Andre B's got Jose Altuve. Go Fies has got Christian Yelich, spelled Yelish like relish. It's okay. I know who you meant.
My goodness.
Alex Bregman from Swoop. Profar as well, I saw from somebody. And then chat moved really quick. Rafaela from Andy Millman. Mark Adams going with Corey Seager. We've got Ruiz from Obi-Wan. We've got Tyler O'Neill from Malucar. And then Justin George there with Soto, as well as Teoscar Hernandez. And then Michael Kennedy's got Brian Reynolds. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're signing up for any package at Stokastic, use the promo code Greg. Get yourself 25% off. Good luck, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow.